Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so this video is a continuation from the last video. I'm going to try to break some pieces down that I didn't break down in the last video. So the first thing I want to talk about is beliefs, okay, just real briefly. Remember, beliefs create your reality not only on the 3D, but also on the spiritual realm, the 5D, etc. Remember, Jesus says, if ye believe, ye shall receive whatever you ask for in prayer. It's all about beliefs. See, the key is if you believe. It's kind of like a light switch. If you don't believe it's going to work, well, you're not going to flip the switch. So the word faith is having enough faith to flip the switch, to actually do it in the way that you're supposed to do it. Now here's the funny thing about beliefs. Beliefs create reality. So on an unconscious level, okay, let's start here. When you go to, okay, lift up one of your arms, lift up your right arm, and go ahead and put it back down. So do you believe that you did that consciously? No, you did not. You did that completely and totally unconsciously. Consciously, you just gave it the signal, lift up, or the command, lift up. In order for that arm to have lifted up like that smoothly, that perfectly, I don't remember the number of muscles that are involved, from your hand, your wrist, your forearm, your bicep, your shoulder muscles, your back muscles, your neck muscles, your chest muscles, all the way down to your stomach and lower back muscles. But it was something like, I think they told us when they were teaching this to us in hypnosis, if I remember right, it was something like 239 muscles or muscles and nerves and everything had to move in perfect unison in order for that to happen. So did you control, even if it was only 100, did you control 100 different muscles to perfectly move at the perfect moment? This one's going to be 5 pounds of pressure, this one's doing 3, this one's got like 7 pounds of pressure, this one's got 15. No, you didn't control all of those exactly. It's something you began to develop when you were a little baby. So, have you ever seen a little infant baby that's only maybe 3-4 weeks old, maybe 3 months or so? Well, here's what happens. Eventually down the road, they flop their arm around. Now at this point, there's slobber coming out of their mouth. They have no control of their bodily functions. You know, slobber comes out of their mouth. They're just kind of in this body going, what the hell is going on? But then one day, it kind of wobbles its arm. It flops it around and it looks at it like, well, what's that? See, at this stage, they don't even understand that that's their arm and that's their legs. They're just going like, you know, what's going on here? And they flop it around. They're looking at it going, what is this? And then they do it again. They're like, wait a minute, did I do that? And they flop it around. Now, it's a very uncontrollable, sloppy, you know, uncontrolled movement. But they realize, hey, I did something. They don't quite realize what they did, but then they try to do it again. And all of a sudden they start to laugh uncontrollably. I remember watching this child, like, why is it laughing? And then the mom goes, oh, it's discovering itself. I'm like, what does that mean? So what I'm saying is that in order to raise your arm, it took you years and years of practice to begin to smooth out that movement. Because that little child, like the arm was like uncontrolled. It was just flopping around. Like there was no conscious control going on at all. So over the period of the next couple months and even years, it's beginning to fine-tune its control over its arms, its feet, its hands, its legs, its body, its neck, its fingers, its toes, everything. So at that one moment, it learned how to move one muscle, and the arm flopped around. And then it begins starting to experiment and practice with just this one arm, not even the hands or the fingers yet. And it develops muscle number 2 and muscle number 3, and it begins to practice this over and over. So it takes a long time to begin to learn how to use all these muscles in unison, in synchronicity. Everything you do is an unconscious process, because that's where your power is. And that's why I keep saying let go of your ego, let go of your thinking, because your thinking is closing the door to your power. When you drive your car, you're not doing that consciously at all. That is a complete unconscious process. So when you learn how to drive a stick shift, it's like, okay, push in the clutch, okay, put it in gear. You are literally, it's called, so okay, before you know how to drive a stick shift or do anything, it's called unconscious competence. So there's 4 levels. So you don't know that you can't do something. So you don't know that you don't know. So it's unconscious incompetence, meaning you're not competent. The next level is conscious incompetence. So you okay, put the clutch in, put it in first gear, grind, grind, grind. You know, and now you're supposed to rev the engine slowly and then let the clutch out slowly. And then I got to look around and grab the steering wheel. On top of it, it's like grind, grind. It's herky jerky, right? Like it's really hard to learn how to drive a stick shift at first. So after you practice for a while, you kind of smooth it out. But the third level is what's called conscious competence. Okay, so put the clutch in. Put it in gear, rev the engine, slowly let it out. Now look left and right, look around, drive the car. Now you're really like consciously doing all these steps because you've been practicing them for at least a couple days or maybe a couple weeks. You're smoother, but it's still pretty rough and you're totally paying attention to everything you're doing. And at this point, you couldn't have a conversation with a friend in the car because he's like, dude, shut up, I'm trying to do all this stuff. Now, after you do it for a while, say a month, 2 months, 3 months, if you're driving every day, let's say for an hour or so, or half an hour or more, is all of a sudden your unconscious mind starts to figure it out, okay? And next thing you know, you get in the car, put in the ignition, put in the clutch, without even thinking, putting on your seatbelt, and boom, you just go, put on your blinker, turn left, turn right, look left, look around, look in the rearview mirror, and you're having a conversation with your friend sitting next to you. So now all of a sudden, all of this is unconscious, including the conversation with your friend. So, what is my purpose in sharing this with you? Now, a lot of you have dealt with, living in hell or darkness or dealing with narcissists. Well, believe it or not, but your beliefs created all of this. See, beliefs are your unconscious process. So now you don't have to think. This is when you're asleep, okay? So if you believe something, it means you're like, okay, this is my belief. I just go to sleep and let the belief take over. And it does. It drives the car around. Meaning it drives you, the body, around, okay? So here's what I mean. So if you believe that you're a good person and that you deserve good treatment and that God loves you, the minute a narcissist walks up to you, you're just gonna talk to them, and within 30 seconds, your body is getting this funny feeling like, yeah, I don't like this person, I don't feel comfortable, or we don't click, and boom, and you just walk away. It was the same thing when I was a kid up until I was about 19, 20 years old. I just thought, well, I can do this. All right, so one example I used in the last video was boxing. I thought, yeah, I'm going to be the next state champion, and my family was like, dude, my brother's like, Mike, you've never done that before. There's no way. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it, and I'll do it within a year. And in my mind, I just believed that. Now, I didn't understand that, it takes years and years to get good, etc. But all these people, including my head coach, I told him after 3 months that, no, maybe it was after my first boxing match, but very early on, I said, I'm going to be the state champion next year. He said, Mikey, there's no way. That takes years and years of dedication and practice. And here's the thing, though. It rolled off my back. I didn't listen to him. I just and it wasn't a conscious thing. That's the weird part. As I look back now, I remember him saying this to me. He literally pulled me aside, grabbed my shoulders, turned me towards him to face him. And it was a real kind of serious conversation on his side of the fence. I just said something totally unconscious. I said his side of the fence. In other words, right now as I'm remembering it, this was my unconscious system. It's like they were on the other side of the fence. They didn't understand. In other words, my belief created this visual submodality where if someone didn't believe what I believe, it's like, well, they're on the other side of the fence and it doesn't really matter what they say. So I remember him having this serious conversation with me, and it literally rolled off my back. I just didn't care. I just yeah, he just doesn't understand it, and that's fine. That was okay. And everyone else, and it was almost like I had deaf ears to this. It's almost like I couldn't hear what they were saying. All right, when I was in kickboxing, I was around 23 years old, I think, when this happened. My sparring partner had gotten upset or mad or something was going on in his life, and actually what it was, I was beating him, and he was a better fighter and older and more accomplished, and it embarrassed him, I think, and he got really pissed off, and the next thing you know, he throws an elbow at my throat, which is completely illegal, and he did it in practice, which is unheard of, and I was just like, and what happened, he broke my larynx in 3 places, okay? He essentially shattered it. So I couldn't talk for a long time. Eventually I got to a medical doctor, and then he's like, oh, you need to see like a specialist, a throat specialist. Sends me to this guy, x-rays, he goes, look, your throat's broken. He goes, and he literally goes, look, you're never going to talk again. So we went ahead and did a surgery, and he said, I'm going to be really honest with you, I don't think this is going to work. He goes, but we might as well just give it a shot. Okay, so we did the surgery, it didn't work. Now here's the funny thing. He was like, look, I'm going to send you to the greatest specialist on the West Coast. He goes, if you miss your initial appointment, he will never see you again for the rest of your life. He goes, I don't care if you're dying. He goes, I don't care if you have a temperature of 106 degrees. You make that appointment. I'm like, okay. But again, he goes, look, I'm really sorry, but I don't think there's anything anyone can do. He goes, but if anyone can do it, this guy's the best. Now, here's the funny thing. In my mind, now it wasn't like I was fighting against him, or it was kind of just an unconscious thought in the back of my mind. I was just kind of like, no, I'll speak again. And I always knew that. I remember he's like, well, aren't you worried? I shook my head like, no. Because, and again, it wasn't really it was just like, I knew that I was going to talk again. I knew I was going to heal from this. So at this point, it was about 3 months that I couldn't talk at all. When I mean zero, I mean zero. I couldn't even mutter. I couldn't do anything. And so he made the appointment. The appointment was about 6 months out because it was really hard to get with this guy. And then he had his secretary call me about 5 days before saying, Michael, this is a reminder. You have an appointment with Dr. So-and-so, and you have to be there or else he'll never see you again. And I said, yeah, okay, I will be there. Don't worry. And the secretary goes, are you talking? No, I can't talk still. And she goes, no, Michael, you're talking. I'm like, no, not really. And it was really bad like that, right? And the doctor had overheard our conversation. He grabs the phone out of her hand and goes, Michael, are you talking? I'm like, no, I still can't talk. He goes, no, Michael, you're vocalizing. He goes, you're talking. I'm like, no, I'm not. And he goes, Michael, I think you're going to be fine. He goes, I'm canceling the appointment. And he goes, Michael, I want you to come in and see me. And I think it was like in 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something. And I slowly was starting to talk. Now, it took a while. I would say it took about a year for me to talk. It was very painful and it hurt a lot, but I started to talk. Now, he was shocked. He did the MRIs and all that stuff initially, and he did the x-rays. He did everything you could think of doing, and including the surgery. And he just said, Michael, he goes, I've never seen this from an injury when it's that bad. He goes, we're not going to mess with it. He goes, because the surgery the other doctor's going to do might actually keep you from talking. So let's just see what happens. And sure enough, here I am talking normal, full power. My purpose in sharing this is that your unconscious mind is powerful. It knows how to heal you. Now, I wasn't listening to a motivational coach or read some technique and a magic of believing. It wasn't like that. I was just like, in my mind's eye, I knew that I was going to start talking again. So here's the deal. If you're in hell, it's because you have been creating this in your mind. You've probably been watching negative YouTube videos or watching, dark movies about sadness and depression and all the bullshit. Stop doing that. You get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. So this is an image of your, conscious mind and your unconscious mind. It's actually off. The tip of the iceberg should be about less than 1% of the image that they're showing right now. And the bottom is far, your unconscious mind is far, far larger than that. It's much, much greater than that, by 5-10 times larger. So my overall message, I'm not going to go too much more on the unconscious mind. Your unconscious mind draws to you everything. Okay, it creates everything. It'll tune in to the right thing in the right moment if you're focusing on that. You'll hear things that you never heard before that people have said around you, and you're like, wait a minute, what did you say? And like, what? I've said that like 10 times to you. Like, you did? I've never noticed that before. Like, you'll suddenly start tuning in. You'll listen to things on television that you wouldn't have caught if you weren't in the right mindset. You have this process or processor in your mind. It's called the reticulating activating system, okay? And what it does, it begins to notice things that you're focused on. So here's what I mean. I used to live in Vacaville, California a long time ago. Well, I bought a 280ZX from my brother-in-law's mom. She gave me a phenomenal deal on this car. It was like $4,000 or 4,500. And it only had, I think it was around 60,000 miles or just over it. So this car was impeccable. She waxed it, cleaned it, kept it garaged. It was perfect. And this is it. This is the exact same car. This is a picture of the, and here's the deal. That's exactly what it looked like when I got it. It was impeccable. It was beautiful. I was just blown away when I bought it. So here I was driving around in this. Back in the day, this was like one of the cars to get. It was the coolest car in the world, and I remember driving it around town thinking, yeah, I'm like the only one in town that has one of these suckers. And not only that, but looking this good, right? So here's what happened. I'm driving around town, and I started noticing like a 1983, because mine was a 1982 or 83. And then I noticed the one that was a similar model but different year, or it was the same year but a different color, and it didn't look as good. It had some scratches and faded some, this and that, and it just wasn't as good. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not the only one in town. And then I saw one that looked really nice. Like, that car was in I was like, oh, okay, well, shit. I thought I was the only one that had a cool 280ZX in town, man. Now, I'd lived in this town for years, and there was only about 40,000 people, so it wasn't a big town. I had never, ever noticed any one of these cars, whether it was my year, the year before, the year after that, or the year after that, or different models. I'd never seen one. And all of a sudden, in one day, I see 3. The next day, I see 2. The next day, I see another one. And then the next day, I saw one that was like literally right around the block from me. I don't mean 2 or 3. I mean right around the block. So half a block away or 3/4 of a block away. And I'm like, I go down this road every day. How come I've never noticed it? And next thing you know, every time I drove down the road, that car was always there. This is your unconscious mind. You begin to notice things when something stands out. So I buy this new car, and all of a sudden I'm noticing the same and or similar cars all over the place in my town. So when you suddenly get motivated to do something or to learn something, you start to see it everywhere, and you're like, wait, what's going on here? And you start to tune into people. Okay, I remember when I got into NLP, I'd go to coffee shops and reading and doing whatever, usually studying NLP, and all of a sudden I'd notice people talking about certain subjects that before I never even would have noticed. So you tune into things that you're focused on. Remember, you get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. Because there is literally a system in your unconscious mind that does this. So now everything that you do is created by, and it's one word. That's everything I've talked about in this video, in the last video, and the video before. It's one word. Imagination. Your imagination creates your reality. Period. We used to do visualization techniques in sports and boxing and kickboxing and wrestling. You would just sit there and you would imagine doing the technique perfectly. And that's what they say. You have to imagine it the way you want it. You get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. Bruce Lee was really, really big on imagination and visualizing. Now, so the word visualizing means imagination. So there's a lot of scientists that have done this where they hook up electrodes and all this stuff to your brain, to your muscles, and they have you imagine. They'd have Olympic athletes. This is actual tests that have been done. They'd have these Olympic athletes imagine winning the races, imagine running perfectly or doing their sport perfectly. And what happened was they found out the brain could not tell the difference between when they were recording them live, when they were actually running, versus when they're sitting in a chair and they were imagining running. So the more you get into the imagination, the more you visualize it, the more your brain thinks it's real. And that's how you improve on technique on anything. So how do you get out of hell? Well, you have to remember how you got into hell. Your imagination. You were imagining bad things. You believed that you deserved to be punished, or that you did something wrong, you didn't save someone. So this is called self-punishment. So you're imagining and you're talking, you have bad internal self-talk. By the way, your internal self-talk you can completely control. You just take it over and you start saying what you want to say. So by doing all these things, you're painting this image of this horrible life, and thus it begins attracting it into your reality. That's the way it works. Here's how your unconscious mind works. So the unconscious mind works only on the images, so pictures, that you send it. It cannot process a negative. In other words like no, can't, won't, shan't, it doesn't even hear it. Not only does it not hear it, it couldn't understand those words in the first place, so it wouldn't really matter. It only sees what you show it. The images and pictures that you send it, that you send down there. And then it goes, oh, okay, so you want a 280ZX? Coming right up. That's just like in boxing. Like, I just had this belief because I hadn't had enough brainwashing to be negative yet anyways, that I was going to be the state champion. Even my head, now I admired my head coach. I did anything that guy said. I did. And the reason why is because I believed that I was going to be the next state champion. Like, of course I can do this. So I just realized, like, I had to do what my coaches taught me. Now here's the really, really cool and really interesting thing. Even when he himself, the one person that I really looked up to for boxing, I absolutely had faith in this man. Even he was telling me, you're not going to be the state champion. Like, Mikey, it takes years, be a little more patient. It didn't matter. I had a belief that I was going to do that. And even the person that I was looking towards to improving, to teach me how to do this, even when he said something negative, like, hey, this isn't going to happen, it just rolled off my back. He was on the other side of the fence and he didn't understand. So remember, your imagination is the paint, it's the canvas. You're the artist creating your movie or creating your painting. You can imagine a hell on earth or a heaven on earth. Whatever you imagine, it begins to form your life in this direction. Read this right now. This is a perfect example. Now read this first and I'll explain. The reason why you thought that you had to prioritize people ahead of your needs was because you had a belief that said, oh, if I didn't do this, then I was a bad person. Because other people taught you or trained you or brainwashed you into being their slaves on some level. Or maybe you had a belief that, well, this is what good people do, and I'm a good person, and therefore this is what I'm supposed to do. Otherwise, I'm not a good person. These are just beliefs. So now let's talk about, well then, why did narcissists come into your life? Now, what is this all about? Well, it's about beliefs. It's about creation. It's about imagination. So if you believed, because you were raised this way, that you were to be treated like shit and dumped on and told you're nothing, etc., well, what happens when you move out of your home? And you move away, and now you don't have your family and friends or neighbors or whatever to treat you this way. Well, in comes the narcissist. The narcissist fulfills this need for self-punishment. A lot of you came from that punishing Christian belief system where you must suffer on earth in order to go to heaven, or to, in other words, if heaven is good, then earth must be bad. It's that either or mentality. It's not real. It's just a very false belief or perspective on life that there's only two options. It's either A or it's B. In the last video, I posted that thing where in the Bible where it says Jesus has not come to condemn man. Jesus has come to free man. So here's the deal. If on an unconscious level you believe that, well, this is the way my life's supposed to be. Now, what is a belief? Well, you begin to send those images to your unconscious mind. Like if you keep reading stuff like this, I don't know who needs to hear this, but there are people speaking nicely about you behind your back. All of a sudden your unconscious mind's going to be like, whoa, what's going on here, man? There's people saying good things behind my back. And then it will start to happen. People are conspiring about ways to help me, and then it will start to happen. Because your beliefs dictate your actions. So let's say you have a strong belief that no one loves me, nobody helps me, nobody likes me. Well, when someone comes along who's nice to you and wants to help you, you unconsciously push them away. You yell at them, you find reasons to not like them, and yet this was probably one of the nicest people in the world. But you couldn't recognize it because you had other beliefs. Like, look what it says. People are advocating for you. People are genuinely rooting for you behind your back. What do you think I've been doing for the last 3 years? There's a lot of people out there like me that are trying to help complete strangers they've never even spoken to or met. They're just like me. They're out there. Your unconscious mind and your beliefs dictate whether you listen to the people that are helping you or ignore the people that are not, okay? Or vice versa. So this is what happens in a lot of relationships. Let's say you're a very loving, kind, caring person and you meet someone and you genuinely care about them and you're genuinely supportive and loving and you're there for them. But let's say this person grew up in a rough family, or for some reason, whatever, they believed that they were not worthy. They were not worthy of love. They weren't good enough. They weren't clean, that they were dirty, and that they felt horrible about themselves. So here you come along trying to love them. So what do? They reject you. They push you away. They unconsciously find reasons to get mad at you and say, oh, this is wrong, this is bad. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Because, the reason why I'm saying this is because I've heard this from a lot of people. They would later on tell me, like, I just felt like I wasn't good enough for you, like you were too good for me. I'm like, me? Because I had a very similar feeling that I wasn't good enough for people, and I felt like I had to work really hard to get people to like me. And so what ended up happening is they were mean to me, they hurt me, they did really messed up things, only for me to find out years later, like, well, the reason why they did it was because they just didn't feel good enough, or they had, these bad feelings about themselves. So in other words, their unconscious mind had a self-image of, this is who I am, I'm not that, and on an unconscious level, they push you away. So here's how the unconscious mind works, okay? So it cannot process negative. Now here's what I mean. So those old ships that, like the Titanic that hit the iceberg? Well, they didn't have like electronics and walkie-talkies and electric wires that could go for. So the captain's at the very, very top, right? They got the windows all the way around so they can see icebergs and other ships and other danger and rocks and, whatever, okay? So here's how it works. The way a captain gives orders to the people below, because now all the way down, it might be 3, 4, 5, maybe even more levels, but all the way underneath the water where the bow of the ship, or what, I forget what it's called, but the bottom of the ship goes underneath the water. So the way the captain communicates them, shovel in, more coal, make it go 5 knots faster or 10 knots faster, turn stern or aft or whatever, like turn right, turn left, slow down, go faster, is there's this big copper, I'm going to call it a bellow, and it's this big wide open thing, and he leans into it and he yells, and it goes all the way down to the bottom, and then the people down there that are next to it listen to what the captain's orders say. But the problem is it's not very clear because it kind of like echoes off the walls of this copper round thing that's about probably like a foot in circumference or wider, and he goes 10 knots faster, don't go right, and they go 10 knots faster, go right. Okay, I'm gonna go right. But clearly the captain said do not go right. He said don't go right. And next thing that happens, they go 10 knots faster and they start turning to the right and they smash into the iceberg. Your unconscious mind cannot process a negative. So if you're going down the road and you're turning and the road turns to the left and you see a wall and you go, I don't want to hit the wall, I don't want to hit the wall. Your unconscious mind goes, oh, you want to hit the wall? Okay. And unconsciously puts you in a spin and you slam into the wall. So the captain of the ship goes running downstairs into the bottom of the bellow and he goes, what are you doing? I said, don't go right. And they're like, well, that's not what we heard. It sounded like you said go right. 10 knots, go right. He goes, yeah, I said 10 knots, but I said don't go right. The unconscious mind cannot process a negative. It just hears whatever you say. Oh, I don't want to be poor. Guess what your unconscious mind hears? Oh, they want to be poor. Okay, coming right up. Say it the way you want it. Write this down. Say it the way you want it. Because you get what you focus on. So focus on what you want. Say it the way you want it. See it the way you want it. Hear it the way you want it. Feel it the way you want it. Because that is what creates what you want. Now, we're going to start talking about how powerful letting go is. In order to become what you want or who you want, you have to let go of who you think you are. What? So I get a lot of clients and people that I work with and they say, hey, I want to change this aspect about me. So what we do is we do a discovery process and we start to talk and I pay really attention to what their unconscious mind's saying to me. Yes, I'm trained to listen to your unconscious mind, okay? So I start noticing like, oh, they have this belief that's totally against making money or losing weight or or starting a business. They've got like 2 beliefs, like wow. So essentially their unconscious mind is fighting them because their unconscious mind says, no, that's not what we believe and that's not what we believe is right, and therefore it won't happen. So they will actually argue and disagree and they'll resist with the things that I'm saying. Like, hey, do you really want to get over this? Do you want to let go of this or not? Because on an unconscious or core level, they truly believe that this belief is who they are. They identify with it. And I'm going to tell you something. That's not who you are. It's just a belief. It's not real. This is why I say be really careful of what you believe, because your beliefs begin to form and create your reality. Now, when you have a very painful or shocking experience that hits you or hurts you at the core level, you will have a tower moment. Well, what is a tower moment? A tower moment is when something happens in your reality and it shows you that, hey, these beliefs are not real. Literally like Santa Claus, when I saw my dad putting because my brother told me one day, oh, dad, Santa Claus isn't real. I was like, what? And I got really sad. Well, I didn't really believe it until he said, no, let's wait up at night. Watch, Dad's the one who puts the presents under the tree. I'm like, well, no, just the ones from him to us. No, even the Santa Claus ones. I'm like, no way. And sure enough, we sat on the stairs and Dad came down and he put all the gifts under the tree, behind the tree, around the tree, and I was devastated. I literally had a tower moment because something that I believed on a core level absolutely was proven wrong. Now, let's talk about narcissists in your experience. So here's the deal. As an empath or even just a good-hearted person, you just believe that everyone on the inside is a good person, that people mean well and blah, blah, blah. You can't see the bad in people, and that's what one of the lessons you get from narcissists. Humans in general, we just believe that other people are like us, but they're not. In fact, narcissists believe that everyone is always trying everyone's against everyone, everyone's trying to screw everyone over, everyone's manipulating everyone, everyone's trying to set each other up, and therefore they can justify, well, that's why I hurt people. It's because everyone else is doing it too. So number 1, now the second part's going to blow your mind, okay? Something that you probably already did. So number 1, we finally learn, wait a minute, there's some real, I'm gonna use cuss word, people, there's some real demonic motherfuckers out there, and their whole goal is to hurt you, take advantage of you, steal from you, and they smile and they lie and they do all these extremely manipulative things, gaslight you, love bomb you, mirror you, do these unbelievably psychologically, and your whole world crashes, your whole reality, your whole belief system of, oh, people are just good at the core, people are in, you start to realize, like, no, there are some people that on a core level are just mean, they're just demonic. So you have a tower moment where all of your entire belief system collapses and it starts getting rearranged, and it's a very uncomfortable time because you don't know who to trust while you're going through this process. But lo and behold, there's good news, okay? So this, even though this was a very, very painful moment in your life that may have lasted for years, it was the best moment of your life, the most empowering moment of your life that lasted for a long time. You were beginning to learn, I need to stop blindly trusting other people. And you finally realized this is why you've always been getting hurt and screwed over your entire life. And you finally started to realize you needed to listen to yourself. You needed to start leading your own life. You needed to start listening to your own feelings, your own emotions. You needed to listen to your gut instincts. And that is what the lesson was all about. Because you wondered, well, how can this happen to me and not other people? How come some people never had this? Because on some level, you had a belief that you deserved to be punished. And it's kind of like, it's almost like going to church, or you feel like you were punished, you were shamed, you were blamed, but you were forgiven now that you came to church, and now you're forgiven. And I remember what it was like. Every time I walked out of church, I felt like I was cleansed of all my sins and all the bad things. And it lasted for about 24 hours to 36 hours. And then come Tuesday morning, in college, here I am in math class feeling guilty and shameful again, and couldn't wait for next Sundays. It was just like it never ended. Because the belief is what's creating this. When you start to realize that you're a child of God, that God loves you with all his heart and all your soul, you start to feel good about yourself. Now, here's what happens. For people who have self-respect, self-worth, and self-esteem, they literally genuinely love themselves. This is why practicing self-love is so important. Speaking well to yourself. Like, I took myself out to dinner tonight because I accomplished some of the things I want. I remember years ago, Tony Robbins like, hey man, you got to give yourself little rewards along the way. You can't just not reward yourself. You've got to let yourself know, like, hey, I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you're doing this. Congratulations for accomplishing, this amount of work. It teaches your unconscious mind, your emotional system, that you deserve rewards. You deserve to get paid for your worth. You deserve to get treated well. You deserve to get treated right. A human being that walks around with a sense of a healthy self-esteem, healthy self-respect, when a narcissist walks up to him and starts playing their games, after the first, second, third, they're like, oh, I'm done. I'm out of here. But what did we do? We let them do this to us for weeks, months, year after year after year, until it got so bad, we're like, I can't take it anymore. And if you didn't finally learn the lesson of self-love and self-respect and self-esteem and protecting yourself, well, the next narcissist that came along, you went right along with them. See, it's kind of like me in boxing. Like, I just had this belief that this is the way life is, this is the way I am, then this is the way my future is, period. And when someone said anything counter to that, it was just like water off a duck's back. It was like you were on the other side of the fence. It's like a neighbor that's on the other side of the fence. There's bushes in between, and you're about 30 yards. You can't really hear them, so it doesn't affect you. It's like you don't listen. And you just kind of, you fade them out, and you get on your BMX bike and you go down the road and play with your friends, or you go to practice or whatever. It's the same thing with narcissist abuse. People that have healthy self-esteem, they're just kind of looking at this person like, okay, they may not even have any conscious thought. They're like, okay, something doesn't feel right, or they just walk away and they just never go back. This is why a healthy self-love is very, very, very important. See, when you have this belief that I am worthy of love, and I deserve to be treated right, or I'm a hypnotherapist, or I am a race car driver, or I'm a football player, when you start to really walk through life like, hey, this is who I am, your unconscious mind begins to create that. So when you have this solid belief that I'm a good person, that I'm worthy, that I am loved, that I'm loving, etc., all of a sudden when narcissist comes into your life, it's like they're on the other side of the fence, and it's just, you kind of, they fade away. Let me tell you something. The most two powerful words in the universe is I am. Period. The way that I shifted my mentality is by constantly telling myself that I am awesome. Because I realized the things that I wanted to do in life had to come from a person that was awesome. So I started healing people. I started shifting people. I started changing people. Things started to rapidly grow faster and faster. And I started to manifest more and more and more. You know why? Because I'm awesome. And that's what awesome people do. We learned this, I wouldn't say they taught this to us in hypnosis, but I figured it out when I was going, wait a minute, so essentially what you're doing is you're opening up the door from your ego down to your unconscious mind. The ego is the I, it's the ego, I, me. The am is your heart, your soul. When you open up to your I am, whatever belief you have in your heart and your soul is what it creates. That's what your unconscious mind creates. All of a sudden, all the rules of science, all the rules of life, all the rules of, that say, hey, well, this isn't possible. All of a sudden, you are destroying these barriers that people have put up that are not real in the first place. They're just beliefs. So you're telling me you want to change the world. You want to be an example of something better. You want to lead people into a better life. Then walk away. The greatest, most powerful thing you can do is walk away from a narcissist for good. Or someone who's suffering. And here's why. So what a narcissist does, or someone who's really, really depressed, is they pull you down into their world. And that's a very, very dangerous place. And it's a very dangerous thing, because what can happen is you can start taking on their beliefs and their illusions of life that are not real at all. But when you start to believe them, that's when it's kind of like, uh-oh, now you're both stuck, and now you can't pull them out, because their love for you is going to keep both of you there. And what's worse is now your love for them is going to keep you guys there too. So now neither one of you want to get out, you just want to love each other. So here's what happened. On an intuitive level, on a God level, I remember all of a sudden, out of nowhere, something goes, leave right now, get out, pack your bags and just go, and don't turn back. So all of us know have dealt with narcissists on this really, really painful demonic level. You literally know they literally pull you down into their hell. This is their imagination. This is their world. These are the internal dialogue, the thoughts they're saying in their head, that they're horrible thoughts about themselves, about others, and they have these horrible... And so what happens is, any of you who have dealt with narcissists on this level, you got sucked down into their world, and it was dark. And I mean really dark. It was and is a hell. I remember something inside was like, go now, right now. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, I'd never felt, well, I didn't hear it, but it was a feeling like it was saying, go home, walk away, leave, pack your bags and just go. Something really, really powerful will happen to that narcissist. It may not happen the first moment, the first day, because their ego goes, oh, they'll be back. But when they realize, wait a minute, they're not coming back. Here's what happened. For the first time in their life, they watched someone walk out of hell. They didn't know that that was possible. They didn't know that the doors open, that they could walk right on out. And this is the same thing with other empaths who get sucked down into the dark world. When they watch you walk out, when they watch you make a choice that I want to live a happy life. It's called, you chose self-love. You chose, like, no, I'm going to be treated better. I'm going to love myself better than this. You walked out and you never came back. All of a sudden they're realizing, wait a minute, there is a way out. So they start to look for it. Number 1. I am is powerful. You get to choose. You need to choose what your I am is. Choose your I am, and also choose my life. My life is a vacation. My life is a blast. My life is a dance. My life is an adventure. I am powerful. I am love. I am awesome. Choose your I am and choose my life, and write it down. And then keep saying it to yourself all the time, and be playful with it. I joke around on Facebook, oh, I'm awesome, that's because I'm awesome. Say, hey Mike, that was really cool. I'll say, that's because I'm awesome. I constantly, and people know that I'm being playful, but here's the thing, it really does cause your unconscious mind to go, yeah, I'm awesome. So what happens? You start doing awesome things. You treat people better. You do things for people. Life becomes better all the way around. You become a better person. Now, let's say you're walking around with self-punishment. I'm not worthy. I'm not a good person. I'm a bad person. If people can convince you that you're a sinner, if people can convince you that you're a bad person, guess what you're going to do? Your unconscious mind goes, oh, well, I guess I'm a bad person, and that's just the way it is. So it starts to do bad things. Why do you think people around you, especially narcissists, even if you don't know they are, they're always, oh, you're a druggie. I remember when I was a kid, like, I didn't drink, I didn't do drugs. Oh, yeah, you're an alcoholic. You drink all the time. But they would keep saying it. I remember, like, no, I don't. You know it, because my cousin would do this. And on the other hand, at school, he would call me a goody. It was a goody two-shoes and another one. He goes, he never drinks. He never does anything. So on the one hand, he'd humiliate me in front of people, saying he's a goody two-shoes. But on the other hand, he'd say, oh, you're an alcoholic. You're this, you're that. But what they're trying to do, at least on that aspect, they're trying to turn you into an alcoholic. I watched my ex-girlfriend's family. She had this beautiful niece. And the funny thing is, she was skinny. She was about 3 or 4 years old, beautiful little thing. She was a skinny little girl. And they would, oh, you're fat. And I'm like, no, she's not. What are you talking? Oh, no, she's fat. And sure enough, she grew up to be fat because her unconscious mind started to believe this, because that's all she heard from her mom, her aunties, her sisters, or not sisters, but these other women that would be in the room. And I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with these people? Why are they saying that? And it would break her heart. Sure enough, a couple years later, she was starting to become fat. Your I am steers your unconscious mind, period. So when you walk out of hell, they start to realize, wait a minute, there's a way out. And the thing about it is, like, the door's wide open. Hell is for self-punishment. Self-punishment creates this illusion called hell. Have you ever seen that show, that TV show? It was a weekly show or whatever it was. It's called Lucifer. It was with Tom Ellis, and they had a bunch of other characters, and their names were like Rory, Amenadale, Auntie Mays, Eve, all those people. So Lucifer starts to go through therapy, okay? So Lucifer would essentially be a narcissist, okay? And he's starting to go through therapy because he falls in love with this one woman who's not in love with him. Normally he could get anyone to fall in love. He's like, hey, what's going on here? So he starts going to therapy. Well, he starts to improve. He starts to heal. There was a moment in the series where the woman he's falling in love with he says, I don't know how. And she says, you need to love yourself. And he goes, I don't know how. But then he says, but I want to. Now, at this point, his full body was in red devil horns. And all of a sudden, around his heart, it turned white. It turned skin color. And she goes, Lucy, look, because his nickname was Lucy. And all of a sudden, he noticed it, and all of a sudden, it became more and more. He said, I don't know how. And then he goes, but I want to. And that one step towards self-love began the process of him beginning to heal himself. Now, the 12-step program really proves the I am factor. If you believe I am a bad person, you will unconsciously do bad things, period. If you believe I'm a criminal, you're going to do criminal things, and it's going to be a habit. It's going to be unconscious. Your I am is the habit. It is what creates the habit. So the 12-step programs, I think they're great programs, but there's one problem. They have a revolving door. You never leave. You keep coming back. Why? Because they make you stand up in front of the crowd and say, I am an alcoholic. And they make you say it when you talk to your friends, well, I'm an alcoholic and I have to admit this and I am this thing. You are not a thing. You are not an alcohol or an alcoholic. If you believe that, your unconscious mind goes, well, I'm an alcoholic. So if you believe you're an alcoholic, what do alcoholics do? Oh, they drink alcohol. So it causes this internal battle. On the one hand, all the rules of Alcoholics Anonymous say don't do drugs, don't do alcohol, and yet then they're telling you, but you are an alcoholic. Well, what do alcoholics do? So now you have this eternal conflict that lasts for the rest of your life. If you got rid of that belief, you would never drink alcohol again. Period, end of sentence. You're like, yeah, I just don't do that because I'm a healthy person and I'm a this. I'd rather have them say, well, I'm a healthy person over and over and over and over, and you would stop drinking alcohol. So the best thing that you can do is walk out of your own hell. Walk out of the narcissist hell, and other people will see that and they're like, wait a minute, there's a way out? So in that movie, the TV show Lucifer, he begins to heal himself going to therapy, and he has this realization one day, and he's standing up and he goes, hell doesn't need a ruler, hell needs a healer. Because all people that are in hell, it's a self-imposed hell because you're doing self-punishment. You need to start doing self-love. That's how you get out of hell. Someone who respects themselves and loves themselves, they don't let people disrespect them. They don't let people hurt them. And I don't mean just narcissists. A lot of people are like, well, how do I know if someone's a narcissist? You don't need to know if they're a narcissist. If someone's being disrespectful, rude, shaming you, hurting you, blaming you, walk away. They're bad people. They're hurting you. If someone's disrespectful or rude, walk away. That is part of self-love. Start loving yourself. Start telling yourself, I love you. Look in the mirror and say to yourself 3, 4, 5 times in the morning, I love you. Say it on your walk to work, on your car ride to work. If you can't say it out loud, say it internal, inside. Say you're beautiful. Even if you don't think you're beautiful, maybe your eyes are beautiful. Look in the mirror and say, and just have the thought of, eyes are so beautiful. My eyes are beautiful. You have to start saying things and doing good things, even if it's just a little thing like picking a flower. Or like today, I took myself out to tacos. I have this new thing with tacos, by the way. And by the way, the reason why I'm not focusing on narcissist abuse and narcissist tactics and stuff like that, and I'm changing it more to love and positive things, is because you get what you focus on, so focus on what you want. There's a little trick I've been doing, not only here, but also on my Facebook page and with people. I'm awesome. When I say I am awesome, your unconscious mind literally hears the words, I'm awesome, I am awesome. So your unconscious mind is taking it like you are saying it to it. I genuinely love myself now, and I treat myself a lot better. Hey, this is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. God bless you guys. Please click subscribe, click the like button, and make a comment. And if you want, go ahead and make a donation. There's a donation link down there, PayPal link in the description box. God bless you guys. I hope this video helped. And remember, you are awesome. If you've gotten this far, honest to God, that's awesome.